Hi guys, let's talk about this number sense thing we keep hearing about. What is it and why should you care? Okay, so let's get right down to it. Number sense is the ability to use numbers flexibly to make connections between topics and to check for reasonableness. I think that's the one that we think of the most at home when you're working with your child and they're solving a problem and their answer is so way off and they don't understand why that number makes no sense. So an example of that is if I were to solve 8 plus 7, I might do, well, 8 plus 8 is 16, so 8 plus 7 is just one less. Or another person might think, well, 8 plus 2 is 10, and 7 is just a 2 and a 5. So 8 plus 2 plus 5 will give me the answer. So there's several ways to solve. Okay, so why should you care? Here's the big idea. There is some research out there by Gray and Tall. They conducted action research and really looked at what happens when we learn math, how do we learn math? And they found that students who struggle with math were taught a totally different way. They were taught to use rigid steps and procedures and to use memorization of facts. And what that does is it really takes the thinking and the creativity out of math, and the problem solving goes away. And instead we rely on steps that we don't understand. I'm sure that some of you can relate to this in your own experiences with math and want to save your child from those steps. So what do we do at home? So what we really want is the flexibility of thinking that allows for your child to have a solid foundation. Instead of peaks and valleys of skills, we want a foundation of understanding. So how can you support this at home? Well, there's a couple ideas that I'm going to bring to you, especially since a lot of us are schooling from home right now and struggling. Okay, so idea number one, number talks. I use them in the classroom all the time, that rich discussion that we're looking for. So how do we do that at home? Easy. Set up a problem, a simple problem. You can use that 8 plus 7 I used before. How would you solve? How would someone else solve? You can make it a dinner table discussion, a drive in the car discussion. Talking about that strategy and how you would solve together allows for different ideas, and you'll be surprised at the debate that happens. Idea number two, counting patterns. I know you're thinking, well, we count all the time. We count this, we count our steps, we count forward, we count backward. Absolutely. So here's how to make it a little more exciting. Pick a value to start with. It doesn't have to be 1 or 0. Skip count from that number. So for example, with my own kindergartner, the other day we started at 3 and counted on by tens. So 3, 13, 23, 33, 43. And as we were counting together, we were recording and writing them down on a simple piece of paper. When we stopped, we looked at what we had written and looked for patterns. She saw that there was always a 3 in the ones place. And then she saw that the tens place was counting by ones. Noticing that structure helps her understand how our number system works. You can do this at home with so many different counting patterns. You can count by tens, by hundreds, by 25s. You can start at a different number every time. You can count by fourths or halves. And always record and write it down, and then talk with your child about what they notice about what we wrote. What do they wonder? A lot of times students will wonder, what happens if I continue this past 100? I don't know, let's go see. All of that notice and wonder discussion is what helps build number sense. Okay, one more idea for you on number sense. If your child is struggling, let's bring it back to that concrete, representational, and then abstract thinking. As we talked about in one of our previous videos, students learn through concrete first. That means they put their hands on it, they manipulate it, they move it around, they touch and count. I know that seems like, oh, my third grader is well beyond that, but no. A lot of times the concepts need to be built in the concrete in their hands. And then we move to the representational, where they draw it out, where they come up with a model that makes sense to them. Only after we've had a lot of practice in that do we move to the abstract where we're writing that equation. So if your child is struggling in the abstract zone, back it down for them. Put materials in their hands, whether it's using Cheerios or pennies, and then they can move on to that drawing and that representational after they've experienced it. The best idea that I can give you is have your child explain their thinking. That's really what this is all about. Explain, explain, explain. You want your child to share ideas. You want to share them with your child. You want to talk math with your kids. And in fact, on Twitter, there's a lovely handle of talk math with your kids. I'll put it right here. Okay, so those are some ideas of how you can work on number sense at home that are hopefully easy and not scary. And it's a great place to start. Little things you can do where you feel like you're taking some control back and maybe not just doing worksheets and online games. Leave me a comment below to tell me what else you would love a video on. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. It sounds really weird to say those things, but I need your help. See you next time on Mathy Goodness.